Here with Stuart.
Yes, thanks, Mark.
Yep. Stuart is going to tell us about his facility, the biochar facility, and everything else.
Yeah, well, where we're standing now, this is basically the pelleting, and that's for mainly stock feeds. And behind us is the granulations plant. The granulation plant basically does the same as the pelleting plant, but it goes off, and is, usually when you're pelleting, you're adding something in a liquid form to make it stick together, and different to when you're pelleting, it's pressure heat. So that unit there, it can do a lot of things. At the moment it's set up for granulate. Basically we can granulate anything through it. It's a high-speed granulator. We use it for granulating our biochars and fertilisers, compost. We can do if we want to, but we don't usually do that. But we do what we call seed coating. So we coat the seeds with, like pasture planting seeds. We coat them with that, which is basically based around biochar and soft, non-chemical type coating. And you know what that's the feature of that is there that you're eliminating dust, which in most things. And it doesn't matter whether it's a fertiliser or whether it's a stock feed or whatever it be. You've got to be very mindful of dust these days. And in this plant here, we've got what we call scrubbers, and the liquid scrubbers take the dust out of the atmosphere and turn it into a liquid. And that goes back into our composting areas. So everything's used.
Yeah.
That's the other one. But I think, I'm not sure of the actual number, but it'd be something like about 40 different recipes or rations they make through here, from ruminants to sheep, some horse stuff, pigs, it's on it, goats, you name it. So they're all designed. We don't design we have a nutritionist who does that unique. We did have a animal scientist here for a good while, and he worked with him, and they tweaked the rations to be sure that everything's what people want. And there are today, like, people got different demands, and they want to do certain things with the fat and something or not. So it's more, you might say, by order is how we do it, even though we've got regular customers. But all this arose from we couldn't get what we were after.
You make it yourself.
So the easiest way was to do it, and we scaled that up a little bit to try and make it commercial. So we do a natural, what we call a classic line, which is a non-organic line, and that's for those that don't want organic. It's a little bit cheaper and not much. And then the major part of what we do are organic. We're certified to do American, Japanese, Korean, you name it, it's all here. Yeah. But the growing part of this is obviously our fertiliser side and the phosphates, in the biochar side, which look at going forward. It's got a huge future in that. If you look at even the steel industry now, where they're doing away with coke to make steel, and they'll be using biochar and that sort of thing. But even in waste management, we see that thing going forward. That we may be involved in it, we're not at the moment, but it may be an opportunity for biomass or stuff like that. So that's pretty much the overall thing. Is this is run by the same guys. They work in here, and then we've got the livestock guys that go out there. Yeah, it does. It all self-cleans. But we find, like, for instance, if you're running something that it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of admixture, you just put it through. So we time it how it goes in and out. But it doesn't change much. Anything that's in that operation there is organic.
Yeah.
So, there's no, as far as the classic lines, they come through the granulator, which is a lot easier to clean out. You've got to have a cleaning mechanism, for that. This has all been custom made by ourselves. Except for the IRIC itself, when we first started a couple of few years ago now, and we were trying to granulate our fertilisers, and the trouble with it was it's so abrasive, it just chewed the place apart. So then we found this machine. There's only two, I think, in Australia, and not many of them in the world. It's called an IRIC. It's out of Germany. That's all means that when someone mixes the ration, it's punched into the computer, and if the wood that loads it onto a belt goes underground and comes up and into the mixer, if there's any amount that's not there, or if there's too much or something, it's just there. So you've got to go back and fix the problem.
Yeah.
So it takes the mean out of it. And when you're doing a lot of things like, certainly in some of the things like chicken mixers and things like that, if they go through there, you use such a small amount of things, and by having a computer operated, it times it in and all that stuff. It doesn't make, when you've got people writing numbers down, that's where you make mistakes. You know, it's just human nature that happens.
The computer controls them all at all.
Yeah,
Is that the amounts of each product that goes into the granules?
Yep. You just, so if I said I wanted 10 tonne, you've got 10 tonne at the top, brings all the mixes up, loads it down into the computer, and it loads the, turns it on,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Did the nutritionist do all those amounts? Did he program all those, or do you change those?
No, we can change those. That sometimes does happen if your protein, say, drop down or something, you use a bit more or a bit less, or whatever it might be. But it's run by, anybody can run it, because the formulations are set by our nutritionist lives on the Gold Coast, and we say to him, look, we want something made up for a sale. So like a fellow who turned up here a couple of days and he wants 60 tonne a week of, that's for quail eggs. Not that we can do it.
He wants 60 tonne a week. That's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food for quails. And but you know, that's a big business in Australia coming. That's not so much the meat side, it's the egg side. And the meat side's been around for a while, and you know, a lot of Japanese restaurants, Chinese restaurants, you know, they're letting lots of quail these days. Yeah. So it's a little bit, it's a bit unique. Like, it's not like a custom, this business is not like a standard feed mill or anything like. It's designed around probably what we grow, North Point, and we're the suppliers of our own products. Basically, we feed a lot of those products ourselves as well. So it's a service in two ways. It's quite intense. Like, I wouldn't even have a clue what a lot of the rations that are, because out of the main office still say, look, we need this, we need that, and it all just happens automatically. But with the modern era, you know, computers run most things, particularly things which we didn't get into yesterday, but that functional carbon plant down there is totally computer operated. You know, so but what that's about is being able to measure, and it's like anything else today. I mean, you've got to be looking around and saying, well, you know, am I emitting something, or am I doing something that's dangerous to staff or even to the consumer? So that down the bottom there is highly powered. In fact, what we did, part of the electrical side of it comes out of we bought a mining setup at New Hope, which is west of Ipswich. Yeah, and it came into Australia as coal's a liquid. They were taking the coal, taking the liquid, making fuel with the coal gas. And they spent 26 million, I think, on it. Ran for 8 hours, they shut it down. So we bought an entire plant, which gives us a lot of scope, even for what we're doing with our methane side, like the gas chromatographs and spectrometers and all that stuff. Millions of dollars, you know, so, you know, you get lucky sometimes, but also it's created problems. When you get all that sort of stuff around, then you tend to find things to use it. That takes up more time or whatever. But you know, it's all a family business. You know, it's still growing, and we build most of the stuff here. We've got 2 Boilermakers and 3 you might call them engineer type guys, and they do pretty much all the work here.
It sounds like you employ half the town.
Oh, well, actually not. More of them come from Casino or Drake or Benalbo. Yeah, but the district, generally it's part of where we are. But the other little factory which we didn't see yesterday, not little either, it's bigger than this. But I call it small because it doesn't work as much as this one here. But it's quite unique. It's all got robots in there for packaging and stuff like that, colour sorters, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So do you sell your products to livestock shops and stuff, or is it just a customer based, or?
The general public, on demand, we do supply like the major retail stores. They tend not to use us much because they've had their old link of years gone by, and even like the major ones have got their own feed mills anyway. So they're pushing their own products. But what happens is people come here. We do a thing called a dry link, which it goes all over Australia. One of our largest customers is in the top of Western Australia, and they take semi-loads of it. So we design that for soils. Now, if they're feeding a dry link and they're missing an element, we put the element into it, and to get maximum production and whatever. But that's one of the things that they don't do, and so it's in, a lot of people will come here, but they'll hook it up through Nutrient or Walker or somebody else, where Ace Olsen, whoever it might be. But don't worry us. I mean, we've got a wholesale price and we've got a retail price. So if they buy here, it comes through, then they get a wholesale price. And if they come here and buy it direct, they get a retail price. That sort of protects the marketing of it. But no, it's all. I guess it's never stops growing. But the more diverse you are, like for instance, if things are not happening here, they won't be happening there. But the agricultural industry has been, or particularly the livestock industry, has been alive. It's having a hard time at the moment. But to perfect production in animals, there's nowhere that it's absolutely, you can get it all out of the soils and the grass. So if you supplement the things they're missing, that 5 or 8 or 10% productivity gains a lot in the end price.
Yeah.
So it's what it's about. It's tweaking, you might say, feeding mechanisms. And most animals, like we feed dry licks pretty much all year, but if they don't want it, they don't go near it. If they need it, they'll go find it. So it's sort of, you're relying on your animals to tell you what to do as well. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Much as plants, same thing. Yeah. So we were back in the conventional days, we had retail store and all that sort of stuff. And to be honest with you, that's why we really came and did our own thing, because we weren't big enough to get the discounts and that from the major suppliers. So we then said, well, we'll go and do it ourselves. And that's what we've done. It's not all about money.
Yeah.
It's about, if you don't do something here, you'll suffer over there. So it's a matter of trying to meet, you might say, the demand, and particularly in the organic world, it's fickle in the sense that there's a lot of things you can't use. So you've got to be dead sure you've got it tweaked up somehow to get it right. We do import a little bit of product ourselves. We're not exporting as much. My son owns another business which is in Casino, and there's about 80% of the gluten-free products in Australia. So we do use some of his byproducts here in the classic lines and things like that. But yeah, it's all one big picture. But production's still where we come from. If you can grow it out there and get it right, usually the market will come and find you. Like we're not doing so much export ourselves because we're busy enough doing the domestic market. And the way the world is at the moment, it's fairly tricky anyway. Container costs are high, freight's very expensive. Anyway, so that's the ins and outs of where we are. The silos outside, you can see, haven't seen them, but they're all for our own storage. There's a couple of thousand come here, so training the other site. But in the other site, we produce all the protein meals. So the protein meals that go in out of our, say, soybeans or whatever it might be, we extract the oils, and then we the byproducts of the protein meals, they come back and go through here or direct to some of the chicken guys. That's,
So you still growing soybeans?
yeah. We do around about 2,000 acres of beans a year, and it's a great plant. It's changed a little in that the market these days is more about food than it's about feeding animals, and the cultivars are not as good as what they were for our particular case. But that's just a matter of changing that as you go along. But no, soybeans are good. I mean, it's a bit like growing hemp. You know, it's got attracted to insects. You haven't got the nutrition right, it doesn't perform. You know, you've got to be able to get the crop off when it's ready to go. And there's a million little things that we take for granted, but we run our own headers and trucks and stuff like that.
It's a lot of things to keep in your brain, isn't it? Like a lot of different things in your business.
It's not about me. It's about
To staff?
It's the boys that are here, and they all know what they've got to do. And sometimes you'll get a rogue one here and there, but that's just the way it's done.
It's always a team.
Yeah, but it is
It's
like
like
the better. I should say that the manager type guys that are around the outfit, like for instance, I'm not even going to be there, but they're mustering probably 400 head of cattle a day away and things like that. I rely on those, the girl particularly, to do a lot of the recording, but they just, it goes ahead. You know, they know what they've got to do.
We were talking in the car this morning. The best thing about to start a business is to get a good group of people. It doesn't matter about the product or what you do; it's the people.
Yeah, and it does. You have a little bits of ups and downs in that, but the loyal ones and the good ones. But we pay pretty well above the award. You know, if someone's in desperate needs or something, we make sure they're looked after. And so it's just, you haven't got them, you haven't got a business. I mean, we hit a bump in the road every now and then. You know, we're finding that there's a big gap between the young and the old, and you know, obviously, many people sort of spend their 10 years here and then they move on, whatever they do. So it's not as easy to find staff as what we've been in the past, but you know, we try and keep it local if we can. But you know, it's about what happens in the office is a key part of where your business is, and that's just making sure all the records are right and everything's done. And you know, with the certification we've got these days and whatever, you know, we do an audit every fortnight or 3 weeks or something. You know, it's sort of, that keeps you on your toes anyway. But, you know, and that's the thing which, you know, all industries, like things like hemp, for instance, we've got an issue there, I think, with that, in that we don't have real standards. Until we get standards, you can never make things actually work properly. But that'll come. It'll come.
I guess because hemp's quite a new industry in Australia, whereas soybeans and wheat we've been growing for decades. So
yeah, and I think I read somewhere on an email a few days ago where they were talking about the yields on things like canola and that were like hemp, not very good. And you know, that's changed over where it was probably a tonne or 2 tonnes. I think now it's 6 or 8 or 10. That happens over time. Yeah, but it's about selection. Like what we do here in Australia is not what you do in China and not what you do in North America. So we've got to adapt to where all that is. But I still think that once we see the legislation of the use of things like hemp, this factory here will, and that one down there, will certainly become fairly active, because you've got to be able to service the market, you've got to be able to service the grower. And you know, there's a big gap in there at the moment, and it'll happen. It'll happen.
that's all right. Yeah.